So let's kick it off, though, with Sam Darnold. Pete Prisco's number one free agent, goes to the Seattle Seahawks. This one felt like, we haven't talked about the Geno Smith trade yet. Once that one went down, you knew the Seahawks had their eyes on someone. They weren't just getting rid of Geno Smith and saying, yeah, we'll just go into the draft and see what the heck happens. They were going in with a plan, and the plan was 3 years, $110.5 million for Sam Darnold. Do we like this move?
You know what? I do like it. And going back to the Geno Smith situation where you said he's leaving, obviously they should have a plan. They can't just leave the keys in nobody's hands. For them to go out and get Sam Darnold and convince him to leave Minnesota, because, I'm not saying I know what the numbers were going to be in Minnesota if he were to stay there, but they wouldn't be gaudy, and nor are the numbers for Sam Darnold going to Seattle. I think it's 3 years. He's going to be making, $21 million a year, something like that. It pales in comparison to the deal that he could be getting because of what happened at the end of the year. And I don't want to understate that or overstate that enough. The guy had an opportunity to have a swing vote in this contract dispute, and it would have ended up being what would the number have been there, Mike, if he goes out and wins a couple of those, if he wins one of those 2 games, gets eliminated like the other 31 teams, but doesn't absolutely make the pee go down his leg at the end of the season, we could be looking at a complete opposite deal. So for Seattle, you get a guy who is 1 game away from being a $50 million a year type quarterback, and you get him at this reduced rate. I think it's good for Seattle. They're obviously going to be starting over there offensively with a new quarterback. Who better to do it than a savvy vet who has proven that he's gotten better as time has gone on?
Yeah, I think in the last 2 games, if I were just guesstimate, I think he would have ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 years between 125 and 150 if he really put them, put better foot forward those final 2 games. Now, if he went on to win a Super Bowl, he's way over 3 years, 150.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He might even be signing that with the Vikings right now. But 3 years, 110 for what we saw. To me, it's 2 things. It's one, Geno's 34, Sam Darnold's 27. You are 6.5 years younger at the position now. So basically, that peak of Geno Smith's career, where Sam Darnold's at, age 27 to 34.
Still going.
That's your peak at the quarterback. That is where you should be at maximum power. So you're getting him at that spot in his career. And you're getting a guy who, for Clint Kubiak's offense, I think is a better fit. For what they ran last year with Ryan Grubb, it was a drop back passing offense that fits Geno Smith's strength. That's what he can do. This is going to be much more run heavy, play action heavy, that attack down the football field. That's where Sam Darnold was at his best a year ago. So I think that's the calculus they made was, how do we, for head coach in the NFL, GM in the NFL, how do I get myself job security? And how do I maximize the talent in this roster? Because you went from this 3-headed monster of wide receivers that could operate this drop back heavy passing offense in DK Metcalf, in Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, to just Jackson Smith-Njigba and pretty much a number 2 wide receiver that we don't even know. We don't know what's going to be at this point. So I think they're much better set up going this route than trying to run it back the way they did. So I give it a B+.
And where he's been, he's going to be taking with him a wealth of knowledge. He's not only going to be helped by that staff in Seattle, he's going to be able to help the staff in Seattle with the ways that he saw the game through Kevin O'Connell's eyes. And I think that's a really big part of having a guy like that in the building. It's important. And I know I'm going to get killed for saying he got signed for 20 a year, but he got signed for $55 million guaranteed. So in my eyes, that's about 20 per year. That's look inside the locker room. That's the way that we see it. Because tomorrow I could break my shoelace walking out to practice. And what are you leaving with? The 55.
Yes. So before we keep going on contracts, I want to say to that point, we don't know how these contracts are set up at this point. That matters a lot in terms of how much they're actually going to end up getting from it, how much cap implications there are. So when you see these raw numbers, especially when it's for a guy who you're like, how the heck did he get that contract? I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's because there are either some funny money, some funny years, some stuff going on where he ain't probably going to get that much money. So always, always, always take the initial reporting with a grain of salt for the total about what it's going to be. And if you really care about this, go dive into the contract sort of structure later on, overthecap.com. I highly recommend it if you are very interested in this stuff. Next one. That's not going to stop us from opining, though, just loosely on this show here. Next one, Josh Sweat. It's one of my favorite deals so far. Goes to the Arizona Cardinals. 4 years, $76.4 million. That's not even $20 million per year that we saw guys like Osa Odigizua inking before free agency even started. Yes, this is his third contract, not his second contract, but his third contract still coming at only 27 years old, turns 28 later this month. So that 4-year deal takes you from age 28 to your early 30s. Yeah, he's probably going to start to decline by the end of it. But for less than $20 million a year for a team that's desperately in need of any pass rush they can get, I gave this one an A. I love this deal for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I do as well. And to be honest, my only real knowledge about like positional need and stuff like that, outside of just watching the Arizona Cardinals play, is from you. And you've talked about their need for guys on the interior and obviously on the exterior of that front to be able to get after the quarterback. That's such a difference maker in this league, the ability to get after the quarterback. And if you don't have real winners, you can only X and O your way into getting pressures and sacks so many times before teams start saying, hey, these are the tendencies. One thing you can't prepare for is just getting beat, and Josh Sweat allows you to have that kind of success at the line of scrimmage. So it's a big deal for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to give it a B+.
All right, obviously reunification here with Jonathan Gannon, former DC of the Philadelphia Eagles, now Arizona Cardinals head coach. And I think now pick 16 for the Arizona Cardinals, you could pretty much pencil that into a defensive tackle, unless they really make a move. But you think you can pencil that into a defensive tackle with how they've addressed the edge, because obviously it's strong DT class, also strong edge class. And the guy that everyone, I think, was painting the tea leaves to go to the Arizona Cardinals, who we're talking about next, Milton Williams, doesn't go to Arizona, doesn't go to the Carolina Panthers, as some people reported earlier. That one was not actually finalized. He goes to the New England Patriots. 4 years, $104 million, $26 million a year, becomes the third highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL by Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins. We said it was going to be a big number. Boy, was it ever.
That's a huge number there, bud. You whip that number out, you might scare some people. And this is the type of move that you expect a guy like Mike Vrabel to be able to bring in. And obviously the list is really long of the guys who signed up to go be a part of that pirate ship in New England again under new leadership with Mike Vrabel. We've seen them make signing after signing here. They've been one of the most active teams, if not, Mike. I mean, I may be corrected, but the Patriots have been just pounding the table for guys and being able to get them so much money. And Milton Williams is the type of guy. I have it written down here in my notes. You said 26 per year behind Chris Jones and Christian Wilkins. Perfect guy for Vrabel to point out in meetings and say, be like this guy, and obviously we love the way the defensive tackles play because we're ball lovers, but a coach who has a defensive tackle who can set the tempo and let you know what's going on every day in practice, a guy in the middle, he sets the tone for the physicality, and a guy like Milton Williams will have to step up. With Godchaw out of there, they're going to need him to step up big time.
Now you're paying two different defensive tackles there in New England, Christian Barmore being the other, over $20 million a year. My only worry about this, and why I'm going to go B+, is because you're giving up a lot in run defense with those two guys in the football field. They are pass rushers first. Now, that's where you obviously win in today's NFL. It's not like, that run defenders are easier to find than guys that move the needle like Milton Williams. This is why you pay him. But when Milton Williams and Christian Barmore are out there, you do not have hold the point run defenders. You may be giving up a little in that regard. So I do worry about from that perspective, considering their run defense was still a problem a year ago. So that's really the only thing keeping me from going higher. I love Milton Williams. I don't think the money's too much with where the money's going at this position. He's PFF's highest pass rushing grade at DT last year. So big fan of his game. It's just the fit specifically in New England, I think, is a little bit worrisome.
In another world, he takes way less and continues to dominate in Philadelphia. But I mean, you got to get your bread.
You got your ring. Get your ring.
Get your rings. They have an opportunity to do something crazy there. And it's just an exodus right now, Philadelphia.
It is. Zach Bond, though.
Zach Bondo. Hey, shout out to Zach Bond, dude.
Yeah, we'll get to him a little bit later. Next up, Drew Dalman. You've been pumping the table for this one, beating it down.
This is a no-doubter. No doubt.
That was just like a fastball center cut.
Yep.
Sitting on it, batting practice, out the park. 3 years, $42 million, goes to the Bears to be their center. Now, brand new left guard, center, right guard. Do we think we see a new left tackle by the end of this offseason for Chicago Bears?
You know what? I think that they are going to be getting on the space shuttle with the names that we've seen. I mean, you never know. They could absolutely draft somebody in the middle rounds or be able to find a piece that they're more comfortable with the tackle position. But I think as for right now, having that big building block at right tackle with Darnell Wright and then going and outfitting the interior of this offensive line, you and I both know we can scheme a little bit now for that left tackle. We've got some guys who can win one-on-ones. You have the ability to slide. Joe Thuney, one of the best guys at keeping an inside eye at the inside hip pocket of that left tackle spot. I'll be interested to see what they do. But either way, the Chicago Bears, I'm going to give this one an A+. And really, it's an A+ because of the fact that we've been saying Drew Dalman would fit well. They're going to have some beasts at the guard position. They went out and signed Joe Thuney. They've made big moves at the guard position, and they invested in the draft with Darnell Wright. So this thing is it's all rolling along as it should be. I was worried for a while. There was no activity at the train station, but the trains are rolling now, and they're high speed. And it's an offensive line-centric football team in front of Caleb Williams. When he is upright, things that are not supposed to happen physically happen. Caleb Williams can make plays if you can give him some time. He's even better off schedule. But imagine him with a clean dish, being able to set back there under Ben Johnson's tutelage, being able to implement that, whatever that tailor-made to Caleb Williams offense looks like, we're going to be able to see it in a cleaner sense with the investment they've made. A+. Kudos to Ryan Poles.
I went A-, but they did get a steal in this one, in my opinion. I mean, $14 million a year for him with where the market is going, who was the top center on the free agent market and apparently turned down bigger deals because he wanted to be a Chicago Bear. So
wanted to be a Bear, dude.
I wanted to be a Bear. All right, next one. DJ Reed, Jets cornerback, goes to the Detroit Lions. 3 years, $48 million to replace Carlton Davis, who we'll talk about right after this, who went to the New England Patriots. I love this one, man. I wanted him. I think we talked about it last week, and I was like, I either said he should be a Lion, will be a Packer, or should be a Packer, will be a Lion. I think
you wanted him to be a Packer.
I wanted him to be a Packer, but this guy ends up a Detroit Lion, and I think this is
and now we hate him. And now we hate him because it's on the Lions.
We do. But for that price, $16 million, he's 28 years old.
Yeah,
should be useful for the life of that deal. I think it's an A. He just fits their ethos defensively.
Dude, you hit the nail on the head at the end when you said he fits their ethos defensively. I would say he fits their ethos overall. And I talked about Vrabel putting the laser pointer on a guy like Milton Williams in the meeting and be like, do what this guy does. DJ Reed is not only fantastic in coverage, but he's active in the run game. He's a physical guy. He likes to get down and dirty. He's going to fit perfectly in the Detroit Lions secondary. And obviously with the exodus there with Carlton Davis, they're going to need somebody to hold up that point. And yeah, I'm going to go B+. I don't give the Lions A's on anything. Detroit, that's the real rival in the NFC. We're buddies. Green Bay, Chicago, we're buddies. We just, we get a little sloppy drunk around each other. We just can't stand the Lions, though.
I love your rivalry with the Lions because they did like nothing to you over the course of your career. I feel like
they beat us all the time,
but they just they stunk for like the vast majority.
We all stunk,
but maybe they did. Yeah, very fair, very fair. All right, let's go to the Carlton Davis, New England Patriots. 3 years, $60 million, massive deal for him. That makes him, what is that? The 6th highest paid cornerback in the NFL. Could be higher very shortly, giving Jair Alexander if he gets released. But big said, New England Patriots, they went from having Christian Gonzalez and some shrimps at cornerback. They had a small cornerback group outside of him with Jonathan Jones is 5'9". Marcus Jones is 5'9". This gives you a big, long, physical corner that you can go up the line of scrimmage and punch teams in the mouth now. It's expensive, but it's an upgrade.
It's going to be so much fun to watch this team play because we laughed ad nauseum at the fact, and we reiterated it all the time that the Patriots just weren't good enough last year from a roster standpoint. And we saw they've got enough dogs to compete with NFL football teams. Obviously, they're an NFL team. They're all really talented. Well, now they just got a lot more talented guys. And to your point, some of the strong points of that defense are now bolstered by even other strong points within their position group. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch all three levels of this defense now. We're going to talk about another one of their guys here coming up shortly. But all three levels of that defense has been revamped. And they're going to play their nuts off for excuse my language. I know we're on the network today. Doggone it. They're going to play really hard for Mike Vrabel. And that's the way that the cookie crumbles every single time. And they've got archetype type guys, and this is one of them.
It is definitely a tone-setting piece. You wanted to play a certain brand of football. Carlton Davis brings that. Robert Spillane, who we're going to talk about a little later, Raiders linebacker, brings that. So you're changing the guard on defense and what the expectation is. And while I don't know if Carlton Davis, he's not the sixth best cornerback in the NFL. He's probably not a top 15 cornerback in the NFL. But I do think the interesting thing is every stop he's gone, he has been the number one corner, right? Like he's
had to guard the best.
Goes and follows, or is the guy who's expected to on third downs take the best wide receiver. That's for the first time in his career not the case, right? Going to New England, you've got Christian Gonzalez. That's his bread and butter.
Go Ducks.
So as much as I think it might be a touch of an overpay, I can't really hate it. I'm gonna go B+ for this one.
I'll go B because I don't pay much attention to the secondary, as you understand, but this is a guy I know. And that's a guy that I enjoy watching play the game of football, Christian Gonzalez. And I know how multiple the defenses can be when you've got guys who can be really versatile and, to your point, can jam at the line of scrimmage. And they're just physically more gifted oftentimes than the guys across from them. It's a dangerous elixir that you can, put into your defense. And it makes jobs as an offensive lineman even harder because guys are coming from places you don't expect them and they can line up anywhere.
All right, the last top 25 free agent domino that's fallen so far. Trevon Moehrig comes in at 22 on Pete Prisco's list. The Raider safety, he's going to the Carolina Panthers on a 3-year, $51 million deal. That's a big deal at the safety position. Safety is obviously one of the lower paid positions in the NFL. Highest paid safety checks in at $21 million a year. So this makes him the 5th highest paid safety in the NFL, higher than Xavier McKinney got a year ago, higher than Jesse Bates is making. Obviously, any backwards comparison to contract 2 years ago or more is comical at this point with how NFL contracts have escalated. But it is still a ton of money for a guy who I like Moehrig. I think he's a great box safety. I don't think he's the coverage guy that Xavier McKinney is that's going to justify this sort of deal. This is one of my first ones where I'm like, that's a lot for a non-premium position that I don't know if it moves the needle that much for you for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, and it's funny because when I think about the Carolina Panthers, they've had to defend the run so much. So I think that Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers got better offensively. Mm-hmm. In turn, the other team threw the football exponentially more than when they weren't able to move the ball offensively themselves. You would think that they would go out and get somebody who is that center fielder type, that is that type of guy who can help them out on third down, as opposed to a guy that's built for when the offense was anemic. And that's really what they ended up getting for Trevon here. And $51 million. And what you said, he was making more than the Jesse Bates contract. And I almost had a stroke. And then you made the fair point of the escalating dollars year to year, and you can't compare backwards. But this is where we are now. This guy who played well last year, and I would say was less than that significantly in the years prior, has earned himself this deal. It's a what have you done for me lately deal. So for the Panthers, I'll give it a C+, B-.